Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Immigrant Podcast. I am so excited to have you again. My name is Paul Adeyeye, and today's episode is one episode I'm really excited about, and I can't wait to have this conversation with my guest. So, my guest is Adebanke Falade, popularly known as Banks of Calgary on Twitter and Instagram. She's been doing an amazing job online. And one of the things I really admire about what Banks of Calgary is doing is how she's been connecting new immigrants with job opportunities. And she's also an author. She wrote and published the book Unashamed. So I can't wait to have this conversation. And I want to say thank you, Banke, for coming to the Thriving Immigrant Podcast.
I should say a big thank you for having me, and a thank you to your guests for tuning in or for listening and for sharing for those that will share.
All right. So let's get straight to it. Can you share a little bit about your immigration journey?
So my journey was quite funny, right? Because when my parents started pushing me to leave Nigeria far back as maybe 2014, I was very hesitant, right? Because it was like, I don't want to move. At first they wanted me to go to the UK. I remember the master's program my dad wanted me to take because it felt like I was very pro women and pro women, pro children. And he wanted me to do a particular master's I felt like would help me achieve that or to bring me into that role, right? And I was very hesitant because I was like, I have to write that IELTS. And all the gist that I've always heard about that was like, oh, this thing is hard, this thing is very impossible, blah, 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 blah. So I found my way, or I wiggled my way out of that situation anyway. And then I just kept giving them excuses after excuses. That, no, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, right? And then in 2016, again, my mom brought it up and she was like, okay, this time go to Canada. And I actually made research. Like I went to schools, I was checking, but I just found out I had headache. Like it was just too tedious a process. Because I think I was checking for masters, right? And I was trying to figure out how to enter through masters, but I didn't know that a lot of people went through like the diploma route. But I wanted to
Mm.
go through masters. So I think that made it more intense because getting in via masters was a was a long stretch, right? So eventually I gave that up too, right? Also I was in a relationship with someone and I felt like I was going to marry this person. So why am I traveling? Why am I leaving this person? Why am I leaving Nigeria when I have a boyfriend, right? Hey, God. I don't think I would advise anybody to do that. Even if you are not in a relationship, if someone tells you, I think you should leave Nigeria, I think, or I would advise that you do. Even if you live for a few years and go back, I feel like it's a life-changing experience because you actually see how systems are supposed to work. You actually see your taxes doing something, right? Because I can go now outside and see my tax at work, right? The whole time I was very sick and I called the ambulance and, they came and they took me to the hospital and blah, 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 blah. I mean, these are some of, there are some infrastructures that I don't think I'll have access to or I don't think I would have had access to if I was back home. Except I was using like a private provider, right? But here there's really no hierarchy, right? And I think one thing, again, being here is that you really learn to you really understand what dignity of labor means, right?
Mm.
You don't I think that's one thing that's so different in the culture is that a job is a job no matter what it is. And nobody looks down on anyone for any kind of job that they're doing, right? Because everybody understands how difficult it can be. And everyone understands, they need to pay bills and all of that. And some jobs that are frowned upon in Nigeria or looked down upon in Nigeria, over here, they are the coveted ones. They're the ones people want to do. They're the ones people want to join, right? So there's also that. So yeah, I lost my train of thought, but going back to what I was saying, my mom brought up again in 2016, and then obviously, as usual, I shoved it off. And then I believe it was in 2017 that my elder sister, I think one day, she just called me and she was like, she's leaving the country. I'm like, leaving to where? And she's like, she's going to Canada. I'm like, how? Like, when did this happen? And she's like, I have to, she was like, you don't know because you have not been paying attention. And truly, that time, I was trying to enter Pan Atlantic University for my master's. So I was doing a lot of reading, um, and all of that. So I wasn't paying attention to her, right? But I'd already entered in 2017. So it was like I was always in school, then I'll come back home. I was hardly going back home because from Ibejuleki to Opik was a stretch. And entering bus, hopping, like it was just too stressful for I didn't go home as much. I would just call home and all of that. And then, she mentioned that she was traveling. Then I was like, oh, okay, you're traveling, right? And then they left. And probably like a month after they left, Mom just started again. When do you want to start, you know, your process to leave Nigeria? I'm like, Mommy, just allow me, right? Just because my sister went doesn't mean I have to go. Let's take our time here. And she's like, what do you mean? And she kept hounding me and hounding me. I mean, my mom kept, kudos to her, because if it wasn't for her, I don't think I would have left Nigeria. If she wasn't as persistent as she is now, or as she was, I probably wouldn't have left. But in my mom's hounding and hounding, I still wasn't paying attention. And then I was listening to Wapek, and I was listening to Pastor Mensa, and he was talking about how opportunities or gaining opportunities is like an elevator, right? And it will open for you. And it will open for a few seconds, right? So people will come in, people will go out and stuff. And it was like if you miss it and the elevator leaves your floor, you don't know when the elevator is coming back, right? Because the elevator will obviously go to the next floor, do the same thing, open, allow people come in, allow people go out. Like, I need to do that. And what if it's 100 floors? By the time it comes down to meet you, you are not going to get the same advantages that you'll have gotten if you had hopped in that elevator earlier, or you might have missed something by not hopping to the elevator earlier. And that was like my light bulb moment. I was like, oh, you know what? It's time for me to leave Nigeria. And so I
Hmm.
started actively like doing it, actively researching, actively asking my sister questions, joined WhatsApp groups, checked Naira Land. Naira Land is an OG. Those people on Naira Land, I mean, I give
Shout
them
out to them.
first. Shout out to them because they know how to break things down, and they're extremely helpful for those that are legit anyway. But yeah, so that was it. That was how I, you know, eventually became serious, eventually put in my application. So I put in my application like December 2019, and then March 2020, COVID hit. And then my application was just suspended for like 2 years. And then I finally came in. I think I came in 2021. Was it 2021 or 2022? One of those. But I feel like if I didn't decide to put in my application when I put in my application, I probably wouldn't be here by now.
Hmm.
It would have probably taken me another couple of years, to get here. That's if I eventually got here, right? But yeah, I think that's my story in more
Okay.
than a few words, because that was a lot. That was a lot.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I appreciate your story, and I took some lessons in your story. The elevator illustration makes a whole lot of sense. And when you were
It was so
talking about
fantastic.
it, yeah, when you're talking about it, I was like, okay, apart from the fact that elevator goes up and down, maybe there's a chance that the elevator might even get faulty
Yeah.
while you're
And
still waiting.
then while you're still waiting, I mean, you might just get 40 and then, you know, you might just be there,
Yeah.
right? Until you fix it.
Or the person you're trying to go meet leaves. By the time you get
Just
there, the person is
yeah.
no longer there. So that's such a powerful illustration. Thank you for sharing that. Should I say welcome to Canada? And could shout out to your mom for being persistent because
I know how to like it,
your story is kind of is unusual because most times parents are not the first
yeah,
set of people to push to encourage the kids to leave.
yeah.
Like
It's always the kids
it's only the
telling the
kids that we
parents.
say I want to leave. I remember when I was leaving, it was even a difficult conversation to have with my parent because I was like, am I gonna leave these people? And even my dad had cold feet. I remember he was telling me that, "Ah, are you sure you want to leave us here? And that country, they said it's cold. So coming from your mom, I think we should give her a shout out. Kudos to Momsy.
Kudos to her.
So how do you feel now? Like looking back, what do you
Ha,
think?
do you know that? Because when do you know, looking back now, especially with what happened during NSARS and then seeing the injustice that are still continue to play out till now and seeing where Nigeria is now, I am 100% convinced that it was the best decision I ever made in my life.
Congratulations.
100, like 100. I know that sometimes like we miss home, which is normal. It's
Yeah.
you miss like family, you miss your friends. Sometimes you just miss the vibe that Lagos has or Lagos gives, or even the total vibe of Nigeria, because Nigeria is more of a like family-oriented society, quote unquote. But moving to the West, you find that people are left to figure things out on their own.
Hmm.
And we don't do that back home.
Yeah.
We don't even understand what that means back home. Like
Right.
everybody wants to celebrate you, everybody wants to help you out, everyone wants to like make your journey easier because they understand that life is not easy.
Hmm.
Which is why, I'm just going to segue into why the Nigerian Canadian community came in, right? I wanted I want to replicate what we have back home in Canada. I feel like once we do that, our journeys will be easier because you need that sense of community. That's what we grew up with, that's what we know. And if you take it out, or if you take someone out of that lifestyle abruptly, for some people, it might be tough mentally, or it will still be tough mentally because you might not know how to navigate. I don't believe that men and women, and any other gender actually, or if you're a human being, I don't think we're meant to do life alone.
Right.
It's a church thing, right? It's a church thing, but still, I don't think we're meant to do life alone. The Bible says God places the solitary in families. And I think that's what I'm trying to do.
Hmm.
Place people that would have been lonely in Canada, in a family, in a community, even if it's an online community, be in something, have
Yeah.
someone that you can call, right? And then can build the physical communities from there.
Awesome. Yeah. You've answered some of my questions already, and I'm actually enjoying the conversation. I'm a big advocate of communities,
Yeah.
not because I have enjoyed a lot of benefits from
Mm.
being in a community, but because it makes your journey easier.
It makes it so much easier.
And I think we've gotten to a point where we are so blessed in this generation to have technology. Do
Yeah.
you know the impact of what we are doing on Instagram, on Twitter?
Mm.
As simple as it appears, like you just
Mm.
pick your phone, share something very valuable, because people come into my DM and they're always full of thanks. And
Mhm.
recently you put up a post on Twitter saying somebody's looking for healthcare project management role.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you can let me
Yeah.
speak with the person. I'm not
Mhm.
sure if as at then if you had an idea that I'm in that space. I'm not
I
sure.
didn't know that you were in that space because even when I put up the post, I was like, because I know like about a year ago, one of my friends, Lami, she was like, Banke, I think that Nigerians that probably want to take like the numerous thousands of exams that Canada has for them to practice in their field, if if they can't enter or while they are waiting, let them get into healthcare project management first. And then they can now decide whether they want to go back into their field or stay in healthcare project management. For those that don't know, if you are in a specialty field and you come to Canada, it's very hard to practice. If you're a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, engineer, whatever, it's very hard to practice. Sometimes, or most, not all the time, right? For all those fields, you have to write some ridiculous exams again. I know because my sister is a pharmacist and I know how many years it took her to finish the exams and to pass the exams and to finally practice. So I know, right? I know how frustrating it can be. I know how frustrated she was. I know how heartbreaking it can be because I watched her, right? Saw her, felt her pain whenever she checked and she didn't pass the exam, you know. So I know how hard it can be. So when Lami was like, oh, they can look into healthcare project management for now and then write the exams along the line because a lot of Nigerians that are in specialty fields are probably doing a minimum wage job somewhere like customer service. Not to look down on these jobs, but for
Absolutely,
people that
absolutely.
were for people that were, in a certain field to come here and realize that you can't work in that field, it can be heartbreaking,
Yeah,
right? I know someone right now in the community that has been writing, in fact, two people or even more than two. I probably can't remember the other person's name, but I know two that, in fact, one resigned to write his pharmacy exam. And my sister also resigned at a point because she wanted to write the exams. But not many people have that luxury to say, oh, let me resign and face this thing, right? If you are the
yeah,
sole provider of the home, or if you are the only person that is paying all your bills, you can't afford that luxury. You can't say, oh, let me resign, right? Why would you resign for an exam? And I feel like a lot of times people get caught up in that, oh, let me do minimum wage job first, then eventually I'll write my exam. But you find that life will happen to you. And then 10 years has passed, you're not in your field. And that can be very traumatizing, right? Knowing that you spent how many years doing this thing in Nigeria, you did housemanship, you worked in that sector, and then you come to Canada, you know, and you heard that Canada needs your expertise. Canada needs your specialty. Canada doesn't have enough doctors, so doctors should come. That Canada doesn't have enough nurses, nurses should come. And then you come here and you realize that, oh, there are some big hurdles to cross, right? So there's also that.
yeah. You touched on a very sensitive topic
Ah,
for
very
me.
sensitive.
Yeah, because for me to, I'm in that community. Let's say we founded. So when I came to Canada, I also had my own challenges.
Mm.
And back in Nigeria, I was in the healthcare space. So
Mhm.
I was so I was so interested in continuing
Yes.
what I was doing because I felt like that was where I was going to get fulfillment.
Uh-huh.
And in that moment, I found a lot of people in my position
Yeah.
also stuck. So we had doctors, we had pharmacists, we had scientists and all that looking for opportunity find that to find themselves in that space again. Then I met a lady on LinkedIn. Her name is Funlayo Buraimo. Shout out to Funlayo. Funlayo founded Nigerians in Clinical Research and
Mm.
Pharmaceutical. So we created a community. We started on WhatsApp. We went on LinkedIn. And that community has been has been a blessing to a lot of pharmacists, clinic doctors, just like you mentioned, that while they are trying to get their exams done, they need to do something. And
Yeah.
the thing about it is when they find themselves in that healthcare space, it gives them a level of fulfillment.
Yeah.
They
Just
may not
knowing
be
that,
fully fulfilled, just
yeah,
knowing that I'm in a familiar space.
yes, I'm in a familiar setting.
Yeah,
I know the terms.
right,
I know the terms. I know what we're talking about. You
right.
get.
Yeah. So we founded that group. I think we're about 300 and something in the WhatsApp group now. We
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of doctors and pharmacists. But the good thing is, at some point, everybody, I won't say everybody, people who want to get a license, they eventually get a license.
Mm.
It may take them 3, 4 years, but they get a
Yeah.
license. And even though I've seen that sometimes when they finally get a license, they still don't find fulfillment. Some of them will
Yeah.
want to do something else, but they feel fulfilled knowing that,
They have
I'm
it.
a licensed
Yeah.
pharmacist in Canada. And it's really tough because when people come to this country, they probably come with their kids. Let me
Yeah.
tell you the truth. For people who are here with kids, it's a lot of work. That's
There's
not
lots
the
of
time you want to go back to school. So
no,
going back to school, trying to read for exams, you're
it's
trying to be
just
there for your
a lot.
family. You're also trying to be there for people in Nigeria because some of them
Yeah.
think you're now next door to
You have
heaven.
arrived. You have arrived, quote unquote.
Yeah. So thank you for what you are doing for connecting people with opportunities. You're just like an intermediary between different people, and I think it's been a very rewarding one. Like the lady
Yeah.
you connected me with, she's a medical doctor. I didn't even know that she's a medical doctor, and I've been able to add her to that community. So nice conversation. Now let's talk about Unashamed, because you said something when you were introducing yourself. You talked about, I don't know if you would like to talk more about it, like you were hoping you were going to marry someone and that was keeping you back in Nigeria. Um, so for your book, Unashamed, what motivated you to write a book? Did you start writing the book from Nigeria, or was it when you came to Canada that you started writing it?
Let's see. Hmm. Where do I start from? So growing up um in Nigeria can be very interesting for anybody, right? It's more interesting when you are close in age with a sibling, right? Because people expect you guys to be on the same level.
Hmm.
And so growing up with my sister who was in pharmacy, or even right from when we were young, my sister is very brilliant. I'm not. I'm more social than book oriented, right? And so there was always that people like to make comments, right? Oh, why are you not as that's as your sister? Can't you
Hmm.
see your sister? Can't you be more like your sister, right? And words can be very powerful, especially to a growing adult. Hearing some words over and over again can really affect your self-esteem and can limit what you feel like you can achieve or what you feel you will achieve or what you feel you can eventually achieve, if I'm allowed to express myself using those words. And so I grew up hearing those words constantly from people. Um, and that's to a large extent, I feel like even till now, um, there are some things I feel like I don't do some things because I feel like, oh, what's the point? I'm not going to be good at it. And just because of all the things I've heard so far, right? Um, and I didn't even tell my parents till when my dad brought up going to London. And I was like, oh, doing masters in this. And I remember sending him, I'm not even sure if it was an email I responded to or if I just dropped it in a chat. I'm like, sending me to London to do a master's would be a waste of money because I'm not good with books. Why don't you send my sister? And then like almost a second later, my mom was calling me. Like, what's that statement? What is it supposed to mean? I'm like, I'm just telling you, like, I feel like, sending my sister to do a master's, I feel like you get more return on investment than sending me because I'm not even sure I'm going to pass, right? We both know I'm not going to pass, or something like that. And, they were having I don't want to say meltdown, but we had like those family discussion. Like I can't remember the word right now, but and then put like, oh, my parents are asking, when did you start thinking like this? What's going on? Why do you think this is this? And we had a long conversation of what happened and all of that. And then fast forward to I'm not even sure the year that I started. Fast forward to a few years later, I started blogging. I think it was 2016, December. I started blogging, and the blog was really about. I first started with makeup. I started blogging about makeup. Then one day I ran out of ideas because being a content creator can be very, very. I don't think people realize how
How demanding?
stressful, how
How
demanding. Because you
demanding?
have to, you have to constantly think.
Yeah.
What's the next thing? What next thing should I put out? What? And so I was thinking, what should I put out? And then I just came across an article on Celia Williams, and she was like, oh, she had low self-esteem because this, and this, and this. I'm like, oh, what's this low self-esteem, right? Because as at that point, I'd not given it a name. I just felt, okay, I can't be compared to my sister. I can never be good enough, blah, 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 blah. And then once I read that article, I remember I'm like, oh, what's this low self-esteem? And then I started reading about it. And then, I could tick some boxes. I'm like, oh, this is what I'm facing to, oh, this is how I feel like too. This I'm like, oh, this is me, right? And so I started talking about, or I started writing about it. I started looking for people who had the same or who had spoken about the same and started blogging about that. But
Hmm.
eventually I wanted it to be physical meetings. So I wanted to build a community again, right? So I started doing physical meetups in Lagos. I did about three. I did the first one, I did the second one, then the third one. It was raining and nobody showed up.
Hmm.
That day it was like the rain was the devil. There's some rains in Nigeria that okay, this is normal rain. But there's another type of rain in Lagos where it will rain and everything will shut down.
Hmm.
That's what happened that day. Everything just shut down. And I'd already bought food, I bought drinks, I'd rented the venue. That day I was pretty devastated. I'm like, you know what, I'm not doing any physical anything again. And so I'm like, you know what, all the things I've written so far, let me combine everything and put it into a book. But
Awesome.
I don't know what happened. I stopped. And then sometime a few years later, right, I was just going through my Google Drive. That Google Drive, I feel like everyone should check their Google Drive. I was going to my Google Drive, I was trying to delete some stuff because I got an email from Google that my memory was almost full. And so I was checking, and I saw Unashamed. I'm like, oh, what's this? And I opened it and I realized, oh my God, I didn't finish writing this thing. And so I started writing again. When I found out that I was stuck, I reached out to Ibuku Tumbi. She's a book midwife. And what she does is she helps to give, should I call it structure to your ideas? But I told her this is my vision, or this is what I see. This is what I have. What do you think? And then she sent me like a document, saying, okay, this is how I feel like it can be made better. Move this into this chapter, make this chapter about this. So she really like um should I
Give flesh
put
to your ideas.
yeah, she gave flesh to my ideas. Right. And so she helped me with that process. And then I reached out to a couple of other people. And then that's how the book came about. So I feel it's for every teenager, female teenager. I use female teenager because or anyone that identifies as a female teenager. I think that would be the proper inclusive word. Um, can relate to this book, and that's because I spoke about it from my point of view, which is from the point of view of a girl, right? Um, I didn't write it when I was writing it. It was mostly about all the things I went through growing up as a girl or growing up as a woman or whichever one you want to call it. And that's why I always say, oh, it's for female teenagers. And I feel adults as well, especially those that struggled with it, struggled like I struggled for the longest time. I feel like it's sort of like, oh, so somebody hears my voice or someone knows, what I'm going through, or someone understands my struggle. Yeah.
Oh wow. That was a lot. And
Yeah.
I'm just here thinking as a dad because you growing up that way, I can be so sure that your parents they did not mean it. Like maybe it's not as if they wanted to, not like they were even very so much involved, but like they probably didn't pay attention to some things that were
Yeah.
happening around them.
Yeah. Because I mean, for people that, always complain about my weight, it was mostly women.
Hmm.
And my sister is very skinny. For those that know my sister, she's very skinny, right? And I've always been bigger than, she is. And it was always, oh, why can't you be like your sister? And I think the most unhinged comment I've had so far, and my mom wasn't even around. My mom didn't hear. I didn't tell my mom until like last year, right? And it was when I was 13 and I'd gone to London and I'd gone to see a family friend. And that was the first time she was seeing me in a long time. And she was like, oh my God, that she never knew I would be this pretty. That because when I was younger, I was very ugly and nobody wanted to carry me. And she just made that comment so flippantly, without any regard for the person she was talking to. But
Hmm.
the fact that I can still remember that comment till today. I can still remember where in her house I was standing when she made the comment. Just shows how dangerous and powerful words can be,
Yeah.
and how people don't really weigh what they say before they say it. They just they just say it.
Oh, and I'm sure that person she may not even,
I'm sure she doesn't remember.
I'm sure she doesn't remember she said anything like that.
I'm
Like,
very sure she didn't remember anything.
and
I'm
maybe she
sure.
was talking from the angle of trying to make you feel good. Like,
You, you
oh,
understand?
you're not a
Ah,
fine girl.
you're
Oh.
not a fine girl. Ah, when you're going to
Ah,
help you, help you. You don't need to say that, right?
yeah.
So just comments like that from people around, right?
Hmm.
Like I said, I wasn't a book person. So even at home, my mom said, your sister got all these. Why are you getting? I mean, that was expected because they're like, your sister is doing good. Why are you not? And even me, I was very unserious in school. Like, let's not lie. Let's not. I was very unserious. I hated to read. I hated maths. I was just like, I'd rather do something else. I was more
Hmm.
into, I want to read a novel instead of reading a book, or I want to watch a series or write a poem
Yeah.
than sit down to read, right? So there's also that. But then I feel like some comments were just very unnecessary. I think even coming here, right, has made me realize that children are different. What works for this child will not work for this child. And so the Bible says, train up a child in the way that it should go. And that age is very powerful because one child is different from the other child. Your training method for this child will be different from this child. I
Hmm.
need to explain to A why you are training them different from B. It might be their temperament, it might just be their overall personality. Because if you
Yeah.
don't make that explanation, or if you don't take that time to say, oh, this is why I'm doing this, this is why I'm doing this for your brother, but not for you. This is why they might not understand him and they might feel maybe cheated out, quote unquote, or they might feel like you don't love them as much as you love this next person. But it's just like, no, I'm doing this because I know you are this way and you will enjoy this better.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, your story is really very powerful and interesting because as a father, you just have to be very sensitive. Let me not say as a father or
Definitely.
as parent, you just have to
Yeah.
be sensitive. You have to be careful because really every child or every parent is always excited when the child
Mm.
comes with something that
Yeah.
looks attractive, like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, you made good grades. Go,
Thank you,
nice. I'm
babe.
so proud of
Oh,
you. Something like that. But I've learned that everyone is a genius,
mm-hmm.
but you just need to understand each person's strength
Mm-hmm.
and weaknesses and try
Mm-hmm.
to just focus on the strengths. And everybody is different. Like this, I can't remember, I don't know who has this quote saying everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to live his whole life looking stupid. Yeah, because but put the fish in the water and
Using what?
put monkey in the water and now judge monkey by saying, oh, so you cannot even
Yeah.
swim. So
Mm-hmm.
it's important to understand one's strength, find the right habitat, and just leave the rest. So
Yeah.
it is a tough one for parents, especially for parents that have multiple children, because
Mm-hmm.
the more children you have,
More stretched.
the more emotional commitment, the more attention you need to pay to each of those
Each
children
one. Yeah.
and trying to understand how to manage their uniqueness.
Mm.
Okay. Hmm. So now I have two questions for you from your story. Now, looking at what you've gone through, just imagine yourself now as a parent, like you wake up tomorrow, you have three children. How would you go about managing each of them to ensure that even though some of the things that you experience did not come directly from your parents,
Yeah.
but they affected you?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful that you've healed, or maybe you are still healing, but you're in a very better state to
Mm.
talk about it. Now, that's even different. I know I've heard stories of these comparisons coming from parents themselves,
Yeah.
and I think that can be worse. So now imagine in your own case that it wasn't even coming directly from your parents, but coming from maybe family and friends, and it affected you that bad. So if you were a mom today with three, four, five children, I don't know how many kids you plan to have, but what would you do differently?
I think hearing what the child has to say is very important because children speak, right? And when they are reaching their breaking point, they tend to say, Mommy, I don't like this. Especially children in Canada here, they are very vocal. My niece and nephew, they are very vocal. Oh, Auntie, I don't like this. I don't like that you said it. Auntie, you hurt my feelings. Auntie, you did this and I don't like it. In Nigeria, having a child that probably voices out their feelings is not something. It's something like, why are you talking back to me? Like,
That's so forward.
am I not your senior? If I slap, but here it's like, you take the time. Oh, I didn't mean it. I'm learning to say I didn't mean it. Shout out to my nephew because my nephew is very vocal. I can't remember what I said to him one day. I think I was just like, see your big head. And he was like, Auntie, that's not nice.
Hmm.
That's what it is. And he checked me because truly, it's not nice. It's something we say back home, but it's not nice, right? And so I think listening to them and really hearing what they have to say, and really paying attention, right,
Okay.
is extremely important. And really understanding that not all the time that tough love is not I don't want to say it's not love because sometimes it's important, but there should be a limit to your tough love, right? You should
Mm,
know when the person you are showing tough love to is reaching their breaking point
right.
or when it's becoming toxic for that other person. I love that here, especially in our generation, I think we're becoming more should I say more informed, more enlightened about
Yeah,
how to
more liberal
how to
too.
yeah, more liberal to how to train up a child. Because if you see Instagram videos on some things on maybe gentle parenting and what have you, like realize that there's some things that can be addressed in a different way. Before, like I was watching a video, or I've seen several videos of people that incorporate or bring their toddlers into the kitchen with them and have them use like kitchen tools and cook. And before you know it, the toddlers are cooking or helping them cook. Right. There was a video I saw of a toddler that was helping her mom cook, and then she spilled something, right? And then, even I mean, if it was back in Lagos, obviously you already know that it's a dirty slap. Is it? Because that's yes, Talon who sent you get out of my kitchen, right? But the woman was telling her baby, it's okay. And then she gave her a rag and the child cleaned it up. And in the comments, people were like sending crying emojis in the comments because
Mm,
they were like, if this was my mom, this is not the reaction she would have had.
yeah,
Right. And I'm learning that builds self-confidence in the children as well and makes them open up to you. Right. They're not afraid to tell you the truth because there is no fear of repercussion. There's no fear of, oh, my mom will beat me.
yeah,
So they won't keep things in as much. Right. So I think we're all learning because you never know, right? Imagine if you have a child that's maybe probably like me, because when I was growing up, I was very stubborn, right? Extremely stubborn. I mean, now thinking about it now, I'm like, this my mom and popsy, they went
they
through a
tried.
lot. They went through a lot because I was a handful. But imagine like knowing that, okay, this person is a handful because of why is this person a handful? Right? Why does this person feel like they need to react in this way? Does this person feel like if this is the only way the person can get my attention? Right? Does this child feel like or what kind of friends does this child have? What kind of school is this child facing bullying? Because I'm not realizing that knowing the reason behind behavior is probably more important than the behavior itself. Because if you
Absolutely.
can find out why the child is behaving a certain way or a person is behaving a certain way, you can fix it.
Yeah, that's root cause analysis.
Mhm.
Okay. Wow. Thank you, Banke. I don't think I want to ask you any other question. Like you really poured your heart out in this conversation. And
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a good thing because I'm just imagining myself and trying to see how I can be a better dad because,
Mm-hmm.
like you mentioned, the kids here, they are very vocal. They express
Yeah,
themselves better.
express themselves.
But for our parents, it's and the thing is, some of those things they were passed down to them too.
Definitely, it's culture, right?
It's culture, yeah. It's culture.
Is I mean, even that I will slap you is a cultural. I don't want to say it's a cultural thing, but it's probably like if you go to like five households, like four households are probably doing it right. If I slap you, if you break a plate or break a cup, first they'll do is beat the hell out of you,
Yeah,
right? First thing, and so then once you break another plate, you're afraid. I don't want to tell mommy because mommy will
yeah,
beat, right? And then you start to hide things,
yeah.
and then you feel like your parents are unapproachable, right? And even to I watched one, was it a TikTok or something? And the person was like, I'm so glad I can't remember the content, but something like I'm so glad I'm not, oh my god, I don't want to misquote. But the person was almost saying like, I'm so glad I'm not blah 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 because I don't have to hide to do things, right? I'm so glad I'm not the child of an immigrant because I don't have to hide to live my life.
Hmm.
I mean, outstanding really because even if you look at how Asians raise their children, almost similar to the way in Africa we do it, right?
Yeah.
Very like tough on
Very
them,
rigid.
very rigid, very tough. Like, and it's not from a place of, it's from a place of love, right? Because if I didn't grow up the way I grew up, I probably wouldn't be so strict. I mean, I probably would have deviated along the line, right? But because I know that somebody else, these people would kill me. Because even when people are talking about skin bleaching, first thing that came to my mind is I can never do skin bleaching because my daddy will kill me. That's what I told someone. I'm like, it can never cross my mind. My
Hmm.
daddy will kill me or disown me. And my parents noticed this. Once your skin starts to change, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Right? So it's not, I mean, so sometimes it's good because it's like, I can't do this. I know who I have at home. But then other times it's like, I can't do this. Or I did this. I can't tell them because I know who I have at home.
Hmm.
Right. And obviously it's a learning thing because we're evolving constantly as human beings. And the way we talk to our children now in the next couple of years might not be the same.
Right. I'm sure by the time
But
we become grandparents,
yes,
we'll be looking
yes.
at them like, how are you guys raising children this
Yeah, that because my mom would be like,
way?
these children, they're very this way. I'm like, "Okay, that's how
Is
they
this
are.
how you people are raising children
Yeah, it's
here?
like private children in this Canada. Because which children was hi grandma, with a hi grandma.
Me, I, it's
Me,
okay.
I, or even me, I auntie. I'm like, hey, good. I'm like, do you know the age gap? And my nephew just be like, he doesn't understand what I'm saying. Or when I
Yeah.
say, oh, put it on my head, and he'll be like, why am I putting it on your head? I'm like, oh, gosh. But yeah, it's quite.
Okay, so on a final note, first of all, thank you so much for coming and thank you for everything you've shared. It's been insightful so far. How do we get your book? Do you?
So it's presently only on Amazon.
Okay.
I've figured out the Nigerian and other arm yet. It's
Okay.
also in the city of Calgary,
Oh, awesome.
um, in their libraries. So if you are a card carrying member of City of Calgary, you probably can read the book, can go in and read the book.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how to put it in libraries across Canada, trying to publish the French version as well before the end of this month. Because obviously Canada is bilingual.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just a few things of
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a big deal. Congratulations on having your book
thank
in
you.
in the library, Calgary Library, right? Is that the name?
Yeah, City of Calgary
City of
Library.
Calgary. Okay, City of Calgary Library. Okay. Thank you so much, Banke. Do you have
Mm.
any advice for anyone listening to you right now or anything else you just want someone to know?
You can't do life as an immigrant alone.
Mm,
I know sometimes I like people are like, oh, I don't want to join because this will they have wala, this will they have. Everybody has wala. It's why we're human beings, right? And once you're in a group, you tend to see. more of people's faults and appreciate like their individual strengths, right? But you cannot do life as an immigrant alone. In fact, even in Nigeria, right? Some people got jobs through, oh, my connect. So connecting with people in your field and making those connections, whether they be Caucasian, whether they be Asian, or whether they be Black, is almost continuing from back home, right? It's continuing that thing of, oh, my guy has an opening in his work. Please let me call him if he can tell his. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
It's just that now it's in a different context, in a different society.
right. You can't do life alone. That's a good place to end it. Thank you so much, Banke. On this note, I want to say thank you to everyone for listening. And till I see you again, stay thriving. Bye.